Hi, sorry, I was setting up the screencast to record. Welcome to Monday night's September 16th OLL online learning session. Currently, I'm the only one here, so I'm going to be making this recording to myself. So hopefully, I won't go too fast. I am doing a dual recording of this, so I am recording my monitor with Photoshop open with screencast, and I will upload the video afterwards for viewing. So tonight I wanted to cover two practice assignments. I'm going to do practice 7 and practice 8, and they're both short assignments. Practice 7 is a primer to get you started on the blending mode assignment, which is due on Thursday. So the practice 7 assignment takes you through one example of how to do this. It focuses mostly on obviously blending modes, but also how to duplicate and replicate a process over and over again, and as well as layer management. So you're going to be creating a lot of layer groups and color coding them, so on and so forth. So this Start Practice 7 project takes you through that. And then once you complete practice 7, my advice is to follow up and do the blending modes assignment, which is due on Thursday. And I'll just state this, it is in the instructions, but I'll remind you, do not use the American Gothic picture for your blending modes project. I want you to use a different picture that you find. I would tell you to find something that is interesting and has a lot of colors and textures and a lot of different things going on. The more you have going on in the picture, the better results you'll get with the blending modes. But don't be alarmed if when you go through the blending modes practice, when you blend the two pictures and you apply whatever blending mode you pick, if you wind up getting a black or a white or not even a lot of change, that's okay. This is an exercise, again, in layer management and also just seeing how different blending modes work. So you're going to kind of be creating your own document that you can use to study different blending modes from, but also, again, practice layer management. Then in the second assignment, practice 8, that's a short assignment on how to create contact sheets, which you'll be using in an upcoming assignment. A contact sheet, you can kind of think of it as taking your layer comps in a way and saving out each of those as different images, and then you could take all those image files and place them on one piece of paper where you could show different designs. So almost exactly like how a photographer has a contact sheet of 100 pictures they took on their camera, you could line up a ton of different pictures, 8, 10, 12, whatever that may be, on one layout to show in print format or in another digital format, different versions of the same design. So I'm going to take you again through some more layer management practice, different folders, duplicating, and then creating that contact sheet. So both of these lessons, not as creative in the sense like you're not creating something from scratch or doing special effects, but you're doing a lot of process-oriented work, which does happen with Photoshop. You might find yourself repeating and doing the same kind of steps over and over again. So these are good lessons for that. And I would tell you to hang on to all the lessons I've created for you to use and refer back to, but you're definitely going to be using these in upcoming assignments. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to share my screen, but then I'm going to be working inside Photoshop. Okay, so let me share my screen. And I'm going to go ahead and save. I did not pre-download my file like I should have. Bad teacher. So let me go in and grab that file from practice 7. I got to download that American Gothic. And then let me just go ahead and do the practice 8 while I'm at it. Okay. All right, so I have my instructions printed out. I don't know why. This might be bothering us in the we are popping up. Okay, so in the blending mode 7, I have my instructions printed out, so I'm going to go ahead and go through those. Sorry for the lag in speaking. Okay, it's weird when you don't have anybody to talk to, you're just talking to yourself, which is still weird. Okay, all right, so I went ahead and I downloaded the American Gothic JPEG, and then for this assignment, you're actually going to create a Photoshop file from scratch. So you're going to start with some very specific settings. So we're going to go File, New, and then you have all these presets that you can type in. So I can actually give it a title right here, and I'm going to call it Blending Modes Practice. And I want the width and the height to both be 5 inches. And I mean, it is, I say portrait orientation, clearly doesn't matter since we have a square, but by default, we're just going to pick portrait. I'm going to keep the file size low, so I'm going to take the resolution down to 72. And we're going to leave the color mode at RGB 8-bit. And then I'm setting the background to white, but you can start with transparent and black. You can actually preload that into Photoshop if you didn't know. So we're going to start with white. And then we're going to go ahead and click Create. And that goes ahead and it creates that simple square for us. And then now I want you to go ahead and you're going to open up that JPEG file. So we're going to go File, Open. And I have it in my downloads. There it is. So I have 2 files open. So what you can do in Photoshop, the next step is I want you to actually place these images side by side. So to do that, you can go Window, Arrange, to a vertical, and now look at that. I have 2 images in the window, they're snapped, and I can work with them at the same time. I can only be active in one window at a time, but I can work between the 2. So what I want to do is I want to take this picture here, American Gothic, and I want to stick it in the center of this picture. So I'm going to pick the Move tool, and if I hold the Shift key down, okay, so I'm holding the Shift key down, and now I click, hold, and drag and drop it into the window on the right. When I let go, by holding Shift, it places that picture right in the center of my Photoshop file. So that's awesome. So now I'm done with American Gothic. I can go ahead and close this. And I'm going to go ahead and double click the hand tool to make it fit in the window, pretty big. You can kind of see it's pixelated. That's normal because I made the resolution super low, and I'm doing that to keep the file size low. All right, so I want to resize this picture down. I want to make it smaller. So I'm just, remember, and if I open up my layers panel, you can see this. I've got the 2 layers in here. Remember, if I select nothing, then everything is selected. So with layer 1 active, I'm turning my page. Hold on a moment. Okay. I'm going to go up to Edit, Transform, Scale, and I'm resizing it 33 by 33. So in the width box, I'm typing 33, and I have my width and height linked right here. If you didn't, you would have to type them into both. And I can either press Enter or press the Commit button on the options bar, and that goes ahead and changes it. I'm going to rename layer 1 Original Image. Okay. So now I'm going to go ahead with the Move tool, and I'm going to place this image to the left. And you'll see I have my smart guides turned on. So that's just giving me a nice eyeball that it's centered. It's, you know, visually centered in the middle of the Photoshop file. So now I've moved it. What I'm trying to do is I want to have an original on the left, and I want to have the same version. I want to duplicate this image on the right, but I'm going to apply some blending modes to the ones on the right. So I can do this. I can easily copy and duplicate pictures and make layers by using those keyboard shortcuts we've learned in the past. So if I hold the Alt key down, so I'm on the original image layer, I have the Move tool selected. If I hold Alt down, you can see my cursor changes to the double arrow that's showing me I'm about ready to make a duplicate. And while I have the Alt key pressed, I just click and drag to the right. It's almost like magic. It made a duplicate, and there it is. There's that duplicate. I'm going to rename this Copy, Multiply, Bottom, and you'll soon see why I have the names the way that they do. And what's nice is I have over here these thumbnails. I can kind of see, you know, it makes it easy to see where they're placed. Now, I'm going to be applying the blending mode to the one on the right, but to do that, you have to get a blending mode to work, it has to have pixels underneath it. If I were to apply a blending mode right now to this layer, it would only interact with this background layer, which has white pixels on it. I want to actually place the same image underneath it so you can see how the pixels interact with each other. So I want to duplicate this layer, multiply bottom, but because I want the image in the same exact place, I'm not going to use the Alt key. Instead, I'm just going to duplicate this image so everything is the same on the layer by clicking, holding, and dragging over the new layer icon. And now I get the same layer again. I got the same image, but it's in the same exact spot. So that's why I copied it using dragging it over the new layer. So I'm going to rename this layer Multiply Top. And now I want to put these two layers into their own layer group. So you're going to see as you build these blending modes, if you follow the process, the steps that I have in this assignment in the follow-up, you'll see that you can do it over and over again. And for those of you that are paying attention, and I'm not going to tell you how to do it, you could potentially duplicate entire layer groups and just change blending modes. So you could do this assignment very quickly if you understand how layer groups work and duplicating things. I'm going to go ahead and I have multiply top selected. I'm going to hold the shift key down and select multiply bottom, and that selects both layers. And then I'm just going to click the layer group icon, and that places it into its own group. And if I expand it, I know it's inside the layer group because these layers are indented a little bit. So I know they're part of this layer group. I'm going to call this group, I'm going to rename it Multiply Blending Mode Example. Okay. All right, so there we go. Now, I'm going to click on the one that's called Multiply Top, and I'm going to make this a little bit bigger so you can see. I'm on the Multiply Top layer. I'm now going to come up to my blending mode, which you can find right here in the Layers panel, this drop-down list. I got all of them, and I'm going to choose Multiply. And you get this live preview. I can actually float my cursor over it, and I can see what each one does. And as I said at the beginning of the video, it's totally normal if you pick a blending mode and you wind up with a black square. I'm not taking points off for that. As long as you applied the blending mode correctly, that's okay. All right. And this would make sense. Difference means subtract, and it's taking all the pixels and subtracting the same colors, and it's going to give me black. It's actually a mathematical equation. So I get nothing or everything, however you want to look at it. Actually, it's nothing. Black is nothing. So I'm going to go ahead and choose multiply, because that's what we call the multiply. And so you can see it took all the pixel values and multiplied them with the pixel values below. That's why I got a darker version of what I'm looking at. All right, I'm going to go ahead and jazz this up a little bit with the multiply top layer selected. I'm going to choose my text tool, and I'm going to click underneath the text over here on the right. That's going to place a text right inside of there. I have my font size giant, so I'm going to pull that font size down to 14. And now I'm just going to type multiply, just multiply. I'm going to click anywhere in my document that says the text. I pick the move tool. I can move it and center it. I don't like this color, and it's going to look pixelated. That's totally fine. It's because I kept the resolution low so that you have a quick upload. Here's a shortcut if you haven't picked this up yet. If I just double click this text icon, excuse me, in the layer, by double clicking that text icon, it'll actually select the text for me. So if I want to pick a different color, I'm going to come up here to the options bar, and maybe I just want to pick black. I can click OK. Black is a classic. All right, so I've got all this text inside of here, the text in the two layers in the blending mode, and we're good to go. So I can go ahead and collapse this and see how it kind of cleans up your Photoshop file, makes it the environment pretty good. All right, I'm going to save my file, and by default, it will save it with the name that you gave it when you set it up. So I want you to go ahead and make sure you add your name to the end of it. Save. All right. All right, so I know in my instructions it says select the empty layer 1. It's actually called background in this version. So same difference. I'm going to go ahead and double click background, and I'm going to rename it border. Remember, we can't do anything to a background layer unless we change its name. And then because this layer is filled with white and there's pixels on it, I can apply a layer style to it. So I'm going to go ahead and choose the insert function, or excuse me, add a layer style. Ah, that was an Excel reference. I teach too many classes. I'm going to click the add a layer style. Excuse me. Pause for water break. Okay. Click the add layer style button, and I'm going to choose stroke. And whatever the last settings you had in here are the settings that are going to come up. So if I wanted to change the size of it, I could. I could choose inside. That would make it thicker. I like center. I don't want it to be too thick. I'm good with the red. I think the red is fine. You can pick any color you like. Click OK. And you can see I have that stroke effect applied, the border. All right, we're just going to go ahead and add one more text layer here. So with the border layer selected, I'm going to go ahead and choose the text tool. Click underneath the other image and type original image. Use the move tool. I can position those. Now, if I want to, they're not totally exact. Here's a little tip. It's not in the assignment. If I select the multiply layer, my layers panel, hold the control key down and select original image, those two layers are selected. With the move tool selected, I can come up here on my options bar and I can do some alignment. Like if I wanted to align them to the middle, that would put them in the center of the page. I don't like that. Control Z. Oops, we're going to go back in the history panel. Align vertical centers. So there we go. So they're centered over each image. All right, so I just did that by selecting the two text layers. I used the control key to select them because they're not next to each other. And then I went up here to the options bar of the move tool and I picked whatever alignment options I wanted. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and click on another layer to make sure that that's deselected. If you wanted to go, a few students have already done this assignment. I saw what they did was they went ahead and selected original image and its text layer and put that in a layer group. And you could even rename that original, just call original image, right? So now I've got two nice little layer groups. All right, and if you wanted to be even more fancy, you could come along and you could change the colors. If you want to do that in the assignment coming up, it always makes it a little bit nice and it's easy to kind of see what's going on. So that is how you complete practice 7. That is the setup for the next assignment. Super fast assignment. Shouldn't take you that long. And, you know, as a bonus, I mean, I guess I'll just show it. If you wanted to, for the blending for the next assignment, what you could do is once you create one blending mode example, you can always drag a layer group and make a copy of it, right? But everything's in the same spot. I don't want everything to be in the same spot. So if I want everything to move, I can select the text, hold the shift key down, select the last layer, click the move tool. I can move this somewhere else in my document. You're supposed to do another like 3x3 pattern, but wherever you move it, right? And then I could change this text to subtract, right? And then maybe I'll call this subtract top. And this would be subtract bottom. And then what I'll do is I come up here to subtract, and instead of multiply, I choose, you guessed it, subtract. And there I go. And now I've just started to duplicate my different layer groups. Obviously, this is not the final layout that you would use for the blending mode assignment, but if you have watched this video and you're paying attention, I've just given you the shortcut on how to do the blending assignment pretty quickly. So if you don't use the shortcut, that's totally fine. It's okay. In fact, for those of you that are super new to Photoshop, you might want to go through the process of copying and renaming and going through those steps every time, because that helps ingrain how the tools work and you get more familiar, more comfortable with them. All right, at this point I would ask if there's any questions, but I have no students to ask questions, so that's okay. All right. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and save this file, and I'm going to close it, and I'm going to move on to practice number 8, the contact sheets. So this one already has a starter file with it. So I'm going to go ahead and open that up. And this is a brand new assignment in my class. This is the first semester I'm giving this one. So I just created this one this summer. I love it. So clearly you can see this assignment has a summer feel to it because all the pictures were summer. And I was thinking about going to the beach when I made this. And well, I was in my house having my tile replaced. And this is where I wanted to be, not having my tile replaced. That's how I got inspired with these pictures. All right, so with this assignment, you're going to create what's called a contact sheet. And as I started at the beginning of the lesson or the video, I said that a contact sheet is a way that you can have multiple images laid out in a table type format, rows and columns of images. And you can use image files like JPEGs and GIFs. You can even use Photoshop files to do this. There's a lot of different ways to generate a lot of different types of files you can use for your contact sheets. This is just one of many ways to achieve this. You will be creating a contact sheet for your upcoming World Hunger Fair project, which is an applied project you're going to work on for next week. And you're going to be creating a marketing piece. You're going to be creating a two-sided card. And you're going to, in the end, when you're done with your two designs, you're going to create that contact sheet. It's going to show the front and the back side by side in one layout. So this contact sheet assignment is to help you with that project next week. So make sure you hold on to this and practice it. But hopefully you have a little bit of fun and you get to be a little bit creative with this assignment. All right, so I downloaded my start file. I'm going to resave it. Save as, practice 8, and my name. Okay, here we go. And I have 5 layers in here. I've already pre-named them for you. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to select the turtle layer. And we're going to add a new text layer. Basically what we're going to do is we're going to take each image and we're going to add a different piece of text to it. Then we're going to save out each image as a different JPEG file and put all those JPEGs into a contact sheet. So, all right, so I'm going to say, go ahead and pick the text tool and click anywhere in your document. And I'm going to, sometimes what I do is I type my text in first and then I format it. So I'm going to do that here. So I said the text should be, let the sea set you free. Maybe I'll put an exclamation point. Okay. Now, if I double click that text tool, I've selected the text. I can pick a different color. And so, I want you to add some different designs to it. So I'm going to, you have to add at least one text layer effect to enhance the text. So I'm probably going to add a couple. So I'm going to change the color. I don't necessarily want black. Maybe I'm going to pick white for this one. Okay, so already that pops out a little bit. And then I can come down here to the move tool and I want to move it around. Maybe I'll put it down here. All right, now with the text layer selected, I'm going to add a stroke and I don't like the red. I'm going to pull that down a little bit. So I'll give it a thin outline so that makes it look nice. Sometimes what I like to do is move the color picker and I pick something that's contrasting, maybe a little bit, ooh, I like that. That's a little bit darker. Okay, click OK. So that looks nice, but I can make it set out even more. Now, I don't have to close this with this dialog box, layer style. If I want to add it, I'm going to add an outer glow. So I'm going to click a check mark. And then I'm actually, and it puts the default one I had in, but I'm going to click on outer glow now to get all those settings. I could use a blending mode if I wanted to. I don't know. I'll just, I'll have screen in there. That was in there before. I'll leave what it had. If I wanted to pick a different color, I can kind of just start dragging my cursor around, see what I get. Oh, I don't know. What else? A little bit light. Okay, maybe I don't want that color. Maybe I want yellow. A little bit of a contrasting color. Yeah, that looks kind of good. And then if I increase the spread, that makes it kind of really shine. Maybe make this bigger, right? And I don't like this color anymore. I want to come pick a different color. Yes, see, I do the same thing you guys do. I could stand on this for a long time. What color green do I want? Ooh, Ooh, I like that. Click OK. Yes, sometimes I pick things by cause just how I feel. Okay, I'm not using any kind of models or diagrams or color wheels or anything like that. I want you to have fun with things. It might look great to me, might not look good to somebody else. That's okay. I mean, obviously, if I ask you to do something specific or put some thought into it and you're being graded on it, yes. But here, I just want you to have fun. I'm going to click OK. Maybe I don't like where this is. Maybe I want to move him. I don't know. I'm thinking too much about it. That looks fine. All right, so that's good. All right, you can see I added 2 effects here, and I have my turtle picture. And so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the text and the turtle. I'm going to put it into its own layer group because this is a separate design. I'm going to wind up having 5 layer groups, 1 for each image and associated text. So I click the layer group. Boom, it puts it into a folder. Rename it turtle example. Did I spell it right? I did not. Turtle example, enter, right? And so you're gonna, for those of you who have a little bit of OCD, which I have a little bit of OCD, having a Photoshop file with all kinds of layers and organize and name, it's a beautiful thing. That's what I'm looking for. All right, so now you're going to go through the process and you're going to select the next. So you could turn off the turtle layer. Now I see the stones. And I'm going to go through the process and I'm going to add a text layer. I'm going to pick a text. I'm going to pick a phrase. Now you cannot use the same phrases for the other 4 images that I have in my example. I want you to find your own phrases. So be creative, come up with something, whatever the first thing hits you, but you can, pick whatever you want. So let's see, I'll do one more because I want to show you a trick here. Bonus trick if you're watching the video. So I'm going to go ahead and click rise to the top. I don't know, that's to the top. That's the first thing that I thought of. Oh, one other thing I should have probably reminded you guys of is when I'm on the text layer, you should definitely, excuse me, I'm going to double click and select my text. We should be spell checking everything we type in. Spell check, good. Okay. So definitely spell check everything because if there's spelling error, I'm definitely going to take points off. And I suck at spelling, so I should be following that rule all the time. All right, now let's say I really liked this text effect, right, from the turtle layer. If I wanted to apply it here, you might be like, okay, I got to click on layer effect, and I got to click stroke, and then I click outer glow and do all those settings. Or you can actually copy layer effect from one layer to another. So if I come up here and I hold the Alt key down and I click on this effect, you see how it grabs the FX and I let go of it on top of this. What? Shut the front door. I got the same effect. Now maybe I don't like that outer glow. Maybe it's not exactly the right color, but the spread and the size and the opacity would all be the same. Maybe I'll come into outer glow, just double click outer glow, brings it up, and I'm going to pick a different color. Brighter ones are showing up. There we go. Click OK, right? It's hard to see it against that white background. Click OK. Click OK. That is not even showing it at all. Definitely don't like that. Oh, maybe because of the blend mode. It was the blending mode that did it. There we go. That's why I don't see it. Rise to the top. All right, click OK. And if I want to be the same up here with the turtle, I could turn the turtle on, outer glow. Maybe I'll change that back to normal. Now I got the nice green. There we go. Click OK. See, even the teacher makes mistakes sometimes. It's all about experiments. It's all about trying different things. All right, whoops. Turn off the turtle layer. So now I was able to copy that layer effect. So again, that was holding the Alt key down and then dragging and dropping the layer effects, okay? All right, so I have my text here. That's kind of boring, but you get the idea. So then I would select this text, select stone. So I clicked one time on this text layer, held the Shift key down, click stones, click layer group, and this would be stones example, okay? And you'll see in the assignment that I actually already have all the layer groups created, and I have a screenshot for you. So with the magic of television, as they say on TV, I already have this file completed. So I'm going to go ahead and open up the completed file. Here we go. All right. Okay, I should have explained what that was. Don't resolve. So actually, let me just do that again. File, open. Okay. If you ever see what this means is, and I get this a lot in this class, but I don't ever take points off for it. What's happening is when you create something at home, or what I created at home, I used a font called, in this case, Comica Access, it's on my home computer, but it's not on this computer here in this office. So if you use type from Photoshop using a tool called Typekit, what you can do is you can sync the different fonts, okay? Now, meaning I could click a button and Photoshop would go and get this font and put it on my computer, and then everything would be matchy and beautiful. We don't teach Typekit in the level 1 class. That's something we do in the 2nd level class. And yay, there's issues at school. If I'm working on campus or you're working on campus, Typekit won't sync because it works with your Adobe Creative ID. So if you're at home and you're logged in, it's usually not an issue because you can just sync the fonts at home. I do that. If you go find fonts from like a free font website, it won't work with this. This only works with fonts that come with Adobe. So as a part of your subscription to the Adobe Creative Cloud, you have access to Typekit, which is thousands and thousands of fonts. And so you would, just so you know, you want to open up your Creative Cloud, and here's where the fonts are. You want to open up the Creative Cloud font, and you can browse fonts and you can download fonts, so on and so forth. I have issues with that, like I said, at school, but at home I usually don't have a problem. So what I do is I just choose don't resolve, and I can still see everything I need to see, but if I were to try to edit this font, I would get an issue. See how I have the little triangle? That's telling me it doesn't like the font. If I try to highlight, it's going to say, hey, it's going to substitute it. No, I don't want to substitute. I like the font the way that I picked it, so I'm going to hit cancel. All right. So now what you're going to do is, now that you have all the different layers, boom, 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 you're going to make a JPEG. You're going to save 5 different image files from this. Okay, so I'm going to turn on the first one, and then I just want to save out an image file for it. So you're going to turn on and off each layer group. So I'm going to go File, Save As. I'm going to choose JPEG from the drop-down list, and I'm going to save it as Practice 8 Image 1. Okay. And I actually already pre-downloaded the images too, but I'm going to go ahead and click save, pretend we don't see this. Yes, I'm going to resave it. Okay. You get a second dialog box with JPEG. So if you're using a dual monitor and you've moved Photoshop around, you might have to look to the other monitor for this other dialog box. Sometimes it pops up on the opposite monitor. These are just different settings you can create with your JPEG if you want to make it a super big file or low res. I usually don't make any changes at this level of the class, so just click OK through this. And I've saved that file as an image. So I've made a copy of my Photoshop. I still have my PSD file with all the layers, but now I've made a separate copy of that JPEG. So I would turn that off, turn the next one on, File, Save As, JPEG, so on and so forth. And you would wind up with 5 files, okay? Practice 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, once you have the 5 JPEGs, then you can go ahead and make your contact sheet. So to do that, you're going to go to File, Automate, Contact Sheet 2. All right. I'm going to choose Files from the drop-down list. I'm going to go to Browse, and I'm going to go where I saved them. Here they all are. So I'm going to select all of those. I click the first one, hold the Shift key down, select the last one, click OK. That puts them in this little window. So those are the 5 files I'm going to use. And then you want to dial in some other settings down here. So how to lay it out. You want to be thoughtful and purposeful when you do this in future assignments. You want to think about, do I need it horizontal? Do I need it vertical? Do I want them left and right side by side, or top and bottom? How do you want your images to be presented on this contact sheet? Have I ever made a contact sheet, messed up and redone it? Of course I have. More than once, okay? So if you create your contact sheet and it doesn't come out the way you like it, delete it and do it again. No big deal, okay? All right, so the settings I have you pick are in this document section. We want to use inches as the units. We want the width to be 15 by 15, so we're making it a square. I'm going to set the resolution at 300. We'll get a nice, so I used higher resolution pictures in this assignment, so that's why I'm keeping the resolution higher. Under thumbnails, I want to place it across. That means it's going to go left to right, top to bottom. So in this case, I want 3 columns, that's up and down, and 2 rows of pictures, okay? And then if I even wanted to, you can include the captions or not. I'm having you do it for this assignment. So make sure there's a check mark here which says use file name as caption. That's why it's important to have good file names if you're going to do this. And then the default is Arial, regular. Oh, it says 8 points. I'm changing this from 12 to 8. And then when you click OK, you're going to sit back and you're going to watch a whole bunch of things start to happen over here. So you click OK. And then what's happening is Photoshop is running through a macro and it's taking each of those pictures and adding the text and creating that layout for you. Voila! And then there was a default setting in there where it had it merged all the layers. That's fine for a contact sheet. For the contact sheet, you only ever save it as a JPEG. You're not turning a PSD file. And you'll see that it put each one of these in a 3 columns, 1, 2, 3, and 2 rows. And so you could hand this sheet of paper to somebody or show this digitally to somebody. Hey, look, here are all these different mock-ups of these maybe Instagram ads that I was creating for the hotel that I own. I've just totally made that up for this assignment, okay? And so that's how you could create a contact sheet. All right, so what you're going to do for this assignment, you're turning in both your PSD file and your JPEG. So I could just take this contact sheet and go File, Save As, and you're going to call it, you're going to save it as a JPEG, and it's going to be called Practice 8 Contact Sheet. First name, last name, or last name, first name. I don't care which order you put it in. Save. We're going to click OK through the default settings. And so you're turning in this contact sheet and your PSD file with all of the layers. Okay. So that is the assignment that took you through 2 assignments. This lesson lasted about 40 minutes. We reviewed in the first lesson, lesson 7, we learned about blending modes and layer management and how to duplicate and copy layers, both in position and placement inside your Photoshop file. That was your setup for your blending modes assignment. The practice one was. And then in the second assignment, we learned how to make a contact sheet. We created another file. It had images in it. We added text. You learned how to add layer effects. I showed you a shortcut for copying layer effects from one layer to another by using the Alt key. And then again, we practiced with layer management. We saved JPEGs, and then you created a contact sheet. So there are a lot of different things that we covered in this lesson. I hope that you find it useful. And I thank you for watching. Have a good night.